Rewired by Larry D. Rosen, a book report by Barajas. Today's youth seems to always be plugged in. They no longer respond to the traditional ways of teaching. Textbooks and lectures simply do not cut it. So, what can be done for this new generation? The I generation. First of all, what is the I generation? Millennials often get confused with the I generation. The millennials are people who were born in the 80s and early 90s, while the I generation was born shortly after. The main difference is that millennials still grew up in a time without internet or in which internet was very new. The I generation grew up connected. The I generation does not respond well to being unplugged. Vanessa, a 12-year-old, tells us, "I absolutely hate school. They make me sit and listen as some old, stuffy teacher drones on and on about stuff from a book written like in the Dark Ages. We have to read pages of facts and then barf them up on tests that will make or break whether we get into a good college or not. Oh, sure, they have pretty pictures on all the pages, but the book is so one-dimensional. Geez, pictures? Don't they know anything about video and what kids like to do?" The I generation craves the connection that their phones and computers provide them with. This is because the I generation craves the ability to do multiple things at the same time. As said by Don Tapscott, chances are you know a young person aged 11 to 31. You may be a parent, aunt, teacher, or manager. You've seen these young people multitasking 5 activities at once. You see the way they interact with various media. They use their mobile devices differently. So children are able to do so many things at the same time. They can switch from a text to Facebook to Instagram to Snapchat in seconds and connect with people quickly. Phones have become a true life companion to this young generation. Joseph Porras also comments and says, teens have created a new form of communication. We call it texting, but in essence, it is a reflection of how teens want to communicate to match their lifestyles. It's all about multitasking, speed, privacy, and control. So children are able to be connected at all times. It is a difficult thing to adapt to, as Derek Baird tells us. While educators and parents might be a bit nervous to embrace this trend, the reality is that Gen Y have already embraced the mobile web, and now it's up to us to figure out how to use this technology in an educational setting to keep them interested and engaged in the learning process. So teachers see all the time that their students seem to be glued to their devices. Jerome, a 7th grade teacher, had this to say. I used to think that it was just plain rude that my students would surreptitiously text each other while I was talking. I have come to realize that they really are paying attention, and if I make them stop, they get bored and antsy and don't listen to what I'm saying. So telling an iGener to unplug simply turns them away from the information that the teacher is providing even more. So why is the online world so appealing? Donald, a 16-year-old, gives us some insight. What do I like about online games like WoW, World of Warcraft? It's hard to explain, but I feel like I'm really there. Like I am right in the middle of a world that is different from my bedroom. It is so realistic that I sometimes forget where I am until my mom yells for me to come to dinner. And how can the young generation not feel a sort of escape from the real world through technology? There are so many things that can be done on a cell phone or tablet. Hundreds of thousands of apps are available, many of them for social network sites, online games, video sharing sites, and gadgets such as iPods and mobile phones are now fixtures of youth culture. Children may lack connections in the real world because now entire families are connected. Therefore, the iGeners find deeper connections online. Teachers can use technology in school, though sometimes it takes a little extra effort. Jackie Pilger, an 8th grade teacher, tells us this. The internet is a great tool to help teach research skills. As a teacher, it's my goal to help students improve their ability to select reliable sources, paraphrase, and properly cite sources. It seems, though, that the only skill they have mastered is to copy and paste. So even though the iGeners have a deep knowledge of technology, as teachers, we need to show them how to use technology for school far past the simple cut and paste. The problem here is that many teachers don't like to incorporate technology. Marion, a 50-year-old 6th grade teacher, has this to say. I think that kids, my students, don't really have skills that they need to succeed. They rush to Wikipedia or the internet for their research, and most of them have never used a real library or a card catalog. What happens if there suddenly is no internet? Will they even know how to do anything at all? But the problem here is that iGeners already use technology, so why not incorporate it in the classroom? Everything else is being modernized to incorporate technology, so by not teaching with technology, how can students be prepared to live in a technology-driven world? The struggle not only falls on the students, but also on the teachers who want to use technology. Marvin, a 34-year-old high school teacher, had this to say. I learned about all this great stuff in my college classes, but it is just so hard to get anyone to agree what I am allowed to use in my classroom. I would love to tap into the students' love of social networks and set up some learning options, but the administrators, parents, and even other teachers keep screaming at me that it is not safe. They are so frightened that they won't even let students access MySpace or Facebook from campus computers. Nevertheless, there is a need for technology to be involved. As Stanbury tells us, there is a persistent gap between how today's digital natives learn in schools and how they work and interact outside of school, a trend that underscores the need for districts to keep pace with technological advances and adapt to students' learning needs. Students spend so much time with technology that it is mostly irresponsible to not teach them in the way that they need. A lot of teachers are graduating with the knowledge of how to use technology to connect with the iGeners in the classroom, but there isn't a lot of support for it. Or the technology that is new to some schools is already considered old school to the students. As Lewin says, kids are wired differently these days. They're digitally nimble. They multitask, transpose, and extrapolate, and they think of knowledge as infinite. They don't engage with textbooks that are finite, linear, and rote. Teachers need digital resources to find those documents, those blogs, those wikis that get beyond the plain vanilla curriculum in the textbooks. Kids know technology better than anyone. As teachers, we need to keep up because diverse teaching is no longer about just stimulating different senses by providing images or hands-on activities. Diversified teaching means delivering information in the way that students learn best at, and that is now through technology. As Rosen says in his closing lines, the time has come for us to put together the solid, research-based ideas described in this book to form a coherent plan for supercharging education. We now have the know-how to provide an educational experience, both inside and outside the classroom, that is motivating, captivating, and engaging. We can no longer ask our children to live in a world where they are immersed in technology in all parts of their lives except when they go to school. We must rewire education, or we risk losing this generation of media-immersed, tech-savvy students who are often brighter and more creative than we realize.